Hello, everyone. And if you've not realized, we are 10 weeks down every Saturday, not missed a single one. And welcome to Life.EV, your weekly dive into the essence of life's most value exploration, right at the heart of India's economic boom. I'm your host, Ajit Panicker, sharing roles at Nova and Pure Blue, where the entrepreneurial journey is a lived reality. Join us every Saturday at 11 a.m., like how we've done over the last 10 weeks, for conversations that go beyond business growth, delving into the ethos of value creation. Let's embark on this quest together, redefining success in business and life. Welcome to Life.EV, Life Exploring Values. And as usual, our guest is Vivek Asrani. Hi, Vivek. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks, Ajit. How are you doing? Good to see you again.
Uh, 10 weeks, dude. Every Saturday,
Wow.
10 weeks, we've been seeing each other. We haven't we haven't engaged with us before we started this podcast so much.
Wow, time flies, huh?
That's true. So, to most of you who are joining us for the first time, Vivek Asrani runs KMO, which is a leader in industrial fasteners, and he's known for his value exploration. Vivek has shared weekly insights on vivekasrani.com for 4 years, enriching our discussions today with his profound reflections. Vivek also brings insights from his book One Day at a Time, and that's available on Amazon, which explores values in depth. So dive into this conversation between us on life.ev for a deeper understanding. So today's episode is a little interesting one, and we talk on the teachers in our life. So Vivek, let's set the ball rolling on the teachers in our life.
So, Ajit, when we think of teachers, we obviously the first thought is of the teachers we've had in school and college. People who've taught us in a classroom setting with a blackboard, with a syllabus, uh, with text which we've read from and done our homework and assignments, and that's how we've learned. And those were the traditional teachers that we have. Over the years, I've realized that life sends us teachers in forms in which we don't recognize them at first. But when we take a step back and reflect on it, they were some of the most powerful and impactful teachers that we had, and in very unexpected ways. So, in my book, in the reflection, I have spoken about 6 different types of teachers that come in our life. So, the first is difficult and unreasonable people, come in our life very often. And we keep asking ourselves that why am I dealing with this kind of a person? And why is this kind of person coming in my life when I know that I'm behaving with everybody around me in a nice way? But they've come in our life to teach us patience and the ability to endure a relationship even when it is not enjoyable. So these people teach us patience. The second teacher that I have experienced is failure. It comes in the form of failure when things don't go the way we want it to go. But it teaches us determination, teaches us resilience. It also teaches us to value things when we don't have it. Ajit, we very often tend to take so many things for granted in our life. When we lose it, we start appreciating it a lot more. Similarly, when we are in a good space and then things don't work out and there's failure which comes our way, very often we look back and say, that we start appreciating what we had when times were good. So failure is the second teacher I've spoken about. Well, the third teacher then corollary is success. Success is also a teacher because it teaches us that A, we shouldn't get carried away, and the ability to stay grounded in spite of our high successes. But the other thing that success teaches us is when people around us start changing their behavior towards us when we become successful, or they change their behavior around us when we are not successful and things are not going well in our life, it shows us the true nature of some of the relationships that we thought we were carrying. So, success is a great teacher if we just take a step back and reflect on that. The fourth is, there are lots of people who reach out to us and who are dependent on us. They teach us how to care and love each other and to be available when called upon by people who really need us. So they also teach us how to be generous, not just with our money, which is easy. And I've always said it's very easy to write out a check, but the most difficult thing is to give of ourselves and to give time. So they teach us how to be generous and caring. The fifth teacher which comes in our life is human crisis. So when we see a lot of conflict, when we see things not going well, of course we are concerned and we discuss it. But what it's also teaching us is the value of good governance, the value of social structures, but more importantly, it teaches us two other things: to be grateful for what's in place in our life. So when we hear and read about conflict and just take a step back and say that I'm living in a peaceful environment, in a peaceful society, so that gratitude, it teaches us gratitude. And at the same time, it teaches us to be empathetic. That even though I may have a good life, I can never ever afford to have a I don't care attitude. That's their problem. It's not my problem. No, if it's a human issue, it has to evoke, and there has to be a certain amount of empathy that it evokes, in me. So it teaches us gratitude and empathy. And the sixth teacher that I've spoken of is our children, and I'm going to read out the few lines that I've written on this, where, where I've said that our children teach us that as the world changes, we must too. They teach us the merit of being open minded and progressive. We learn acceptance. We learn that our way of thinking is not necessarily the only way. So, Ajit, these are some of the teachers that I have, taken a step back and realized have come in my life and taught me. And when they did come in my life, they didn't come in the form of a teacher, but some of them became the best teachers for me.
How amazing is that? Yeah, that is really fantastic. But I've read this reflection. You've also spoken about failures, and that's
Mm.
something that we need to really introspect on. And it also comes because nobody designs to fail, right? We are all designed to win. We plan to win. We work to win. We are only focused on winning. But here's the reality: you fail more than you win. So, what's your take? I mean, isn't failure also a very big teacher?
Of course, it is. I mean, like I said, that with failure, we learn determination, we learn resilience, we learn uh, creativity. But I think it's important to take a step back and just look at failure in itself. Very often we view life as binary, that either I have succeeded, and if I haven't succeeded, then I have failed. I don't look at it that way. Failure is just an outcome, and very often in that outcome could be the answer to what success looks like in future. Let's take the example of scientists in laboratories. Are they not failing with their experiments repeatedly till they actually discover what they are seeking? And the final discovery is not that in the first shot they got it right. The final discovery, Ajit, is a product of the learnings and insights in successive failures, because every time something didn't work, they took a step back and tried to understand why it didn't work, got a better and a deeper understanding of what they were working on, and therefore they were able to make progress. So, if we have to go from the ground floor to the first floor and we have to climb a flight of stairs, every step is a step closer to our goal. So sometimes it comes in the form of an outcome which is not success, but it doesn't mean that it's failure. It just means that it is one more step taking us closer to what we want to achieve. But what is important is at the time when things don't work out, we need to have three things. We need to have the faith that if this has happened, I have the ability to now move on. Second is we have to have the resilience, the inner strength that setback doesn't become a setback but becomes a learning and a stepping stone. And third is we have to have the optimism that finally, at some point, and maybe in the near future, I will achieve what I am setting myself out to. So just accepting failure as an outcome that may happen, which is taking us forward, is one thing intellectually, but if emotionally we don't have the faith, the resilience, and the optimism, then failure can bog us down. But if we have the faith, resilience, and optimism, then failure can be a springboard to taking us closer to our success.
True. And I guess when you say this, no, one of the things that I instantly remember is what the ISRO scientists said when they actually landed on the moon. They said one of the biggest why we succeeded this time is because we learned a lot from the last time we failed to get to the moon. And I guess that was a huge takeaway. It was a huge learning in that whole thing, that that's always a stepping stone. And even for me, I think that's been a big thing. We've primarily been an air conditioning company and very happy never making our own product or even building a brand. We just had the skill set to system integrate, trading. And it happened with me. I was partnering with a very large brand in India for almost 10, 12 years. We did very well, just putting things together. And one fine day, we just decided that it's not happening. That, for no reasons beyond our control, it just fell apart. And it was a huge failure, very difficult moment. But I must tell you, it's been a huge turning point, because at that time, you were forced to think that, listen, you need to build a scalable business, but you got to build it the way you want. You got to build your own product. You got to build your own brand. And that's very important. And had no clue what to do, what to build, nothing. And this whole depression on the failure, but no regrets. 5 years down the lane, we started a new company. We built our own product. We're building our own brand, and we've got a technology platform which nobody else has, and
Wow.
that's a very exciting part. So in terms of sometimes these failures they help you pivot in a different direction. As long as you actually can take it in your stride and look at it more pragmatically, that "Chik hai, it happened, a very difficult moment. Let's get out
Right.
of this and let's learn and see how we can build something even bigger, something which is much better." Do you have such sharings or some experiences around this?
So, I was part of the family business when I was 16. By the time I was 26, I could see that this business, which was set up and had run successfully then for over 40 years, was going to shut down because we were competing with the unorganized sector who were selling without invoices, cheating on quantities, quality, and all of that. And I had two choices in front of me. I said I can either become the best at being unethical and win the game, or I move up the value chain. So, in a way, the business was failing. Not because we were doing a bad job, but the situation and circumstances around us were just so crazy at that time that I could see that this is a failing business. And the word which you used, Ajit, is exactly the word which probably came to mind then, that I need to pivot. And I said I can only pivot on the knowledge. I used my knowledge of staples and fasteners to pivot to the industrial range. Long story short, today the original business still continues. I didn't have the heart to shut down the factory. I said, where will the workers go? But today that business is 3% of what we do. And we were
Wow.
able to grow around that. So we used a falling and a failing scenario as an opportunity that life is now kicking us in a different direction. So rather than looking down and saying, why am I going and where am I going, and pulling myself down internally, I looked at it with a little bit of excitement and with a little bit of fear as well, let me be honest. There was that anxiousness then. But I also looked at it as an opportunity to say, okay, where is life taking me with this? If this is happening, it's happening for a reason. Nothing happens at random. I said, let me now explore what is coming in my life. So I just started traveling, meeting people, companies, industrial range of products. No one had seen it in India. I went and met 400 dealers, and I couldn't set up one dealer across India because everybody said we don't know what this product is. I said, but that's why I'm coming to you, because at some point this is going to become popular. But I just kept going on and on and on. So I had the resilience. I just had the faith that, look, if the situation has come, I have the ability to probably face it. But most importantly, I had the optimism. And I mean, you know, part of my story as well. So it's just been a fabulous, and I look back and I feel very grateful that, we had to pivot. So the pivoting looked like a failure. If you ask me, it was one of the best things that happened to us. It moved us in a different direction.
When you're talking about this, you did touch upon the children that you're learning from them also. Uh, there's something you got to do with letting your children fail. You know, and as a parent, you never want that to happen. You will safeguard and do everything to make sure he doesn't fail. And I was discussing this with a friend, and he was telling me, "Hey, listen, you run a business, right? You understand profit and loss." So he put it up straight up with me. He said, "Listen, look at the math. If your child is going to fail at as early as possible, he's going to learn faster. The cost of that learning is much cheaper than him failing at a much later date." And I thought that's a space that you need to keep, because some things are not learned by books. Some things are just learned by trying it out and failing.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
We have to let our children fall, and yet we have to be there for them that they don't break.
True.
Sometimes at a young age, you can be a little fragile. And more so now, whatever little bit I'm hearing about kids having a lot of emotional and mental issues, probably because of digital, because of this instantaneous messaging. And if you send a message to someone and you don't get a reply in a few minutes, you start getting anxious. What will people think of me on Insta and all of that? So I think there is a little bit of fragility in the system. But as parents, you're absolutely right, Ajit. We cannot protect them from not falling. We have to allow them their journey of falling as well. But we also need to be there that they don't break. And, the metaphor that comes to mind as you were speaking is that of, a potter who makes a pot. So there is the potter's wheel, and he uses two hands. With one hand, he's shaping the pot. So with one hand, you shape your kids, you allow them their journey, you allow them to fall, right? But with the other hand, he holds the pot, that while he's shaping it, it doesn't break and fall apart. So we need that one nurturing hand and shaping hand, and the caring hand. The second is the caring hand, that the pot doesn't break. So similarly, we got to allow our kids to fall, but we got to make sure they don't break. And it's the same with our teams in our organizations, Ajit. We are very quick to step in because we feel we can do a better job, as a result of which we don't develop people, we don't delegate, and then we complain that we're not getting the results we want. So with our teams as well, we have to allow them their space and sometimes make a mistake, but we also have to make sure they don't break, and they come out stronger through every experience.
How amazing is that? Teachers in our life, there's so many things that you constantly keep learning from.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we have time today for that interesting discussion. And that's enough for you to ponder about exploring values in life. Now, guys, come on. I encourage you to not just keep these ideas to yourself. Share this episode with your friends, colleagues, family. You know what? I got a message from a friend who said that, hey, listen, now this has become a topic of discussion over dinner with the family. And that was really awesome, yeah. So get this conversation going. Ask, what do you think? Spark a conversation and see where it leads. That also brings us to the end of our episode 10, which is full of insights on balancing values with business growth. And we are always eager to hear from you on the thoughts of what we share in our episodes. Engage with us on our social media. Share your questions on what you've learned. Your input is crucial in fostering an ethically driven business community. That's all for today. Join us next week on Life.EV for more on exploring values. Tune in next week for deeper discussions that guide our ethical compass. Thank you for listening, and keep the conversation on values going with your friends. And as usual, Vivek, thank you very much. It's been a fantastic 10 weeks of your sharings.
Thanks for having me, Ajit. It's been a lovely experience for me as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. See you next week.